Hello friends, welcome to Nirmal Bang. I am Piyush Jain, and today in this conversation we are going to put the spotlight on the real estate sector. The numbers have come out for the third quarter. It appears that all guns are blazing in the real estate sector. We largely have seen positive momentum in the pricing. We have seen positive momentum in the residential sales volumes, pricing, and also new launches actually have been very good. When you go to the office spaces, again, there also transaction volumes are maintaining at the last quarter momentum. So it appears that yes, quarter to quarter, there could be a regional disparity, but overall, when you take a look at the blended sort of real estate sector outlook, it appears that the numbers actually are looking quite healthy. So now the next sort of thing will be to really understand what are the reasons, what are the underlying momentum, what we should be really focusing, because this time South India momentum is looking really good. So we'll try and understand what's happening there, and also from the perspective both commercial, residential, why this momentum actually is continuing. And to understand all of that, let me now welcome the industry expert, Mr. Gulam Zia, Senior Executive Director, Knight Frank India. Sir, welcome to the show, as always.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to interact with you. And if at all, whatever thoughts I can bring to the table can be useful, can be relied upon, it'll be a pleasure. So, at your disposal, let's start.
Absolutely. So let's straight away talk about the residential market here. Now, my observation when I was looking at the data, it was that, and I'm starting with the sales volumes here, that firstly, the sales volumes were looking quite good, quite spread out, but there was very clearly a strong momentum in the south. We saw some good momentum seen again basically in Hyderabad. We saw again decent momentum in Bengaluru. Also, again, Chennai was okay. But so, what was the reason? Was it because there were earlier launches and they actually were showing off volumes here, or there was more sort of underlying purchasing power here? What's your thoughts on the residential sales numbers?
Well, it's very difficult to single out one reason for this, because there are a lot of things working simultaneously. While we were expecting that the global meltdown, especially the banking troubles or a lot of other issues in Americas and Europe, would have had an impact on the job markets of outsourcing locations like Bengaluru, Hyderabad, etc. But that hasn't happened. We were talking about job losses in India as well, but those were minimal. In fact, it is coming to a situation where there are global discussions going on and strengthening that due to the recessionary trends in Americas, etc., the jobs will shift for towards outsourcing destinations and Indian cities will be direct beneficiaries. So, a lot of these things are happening in the backdrop, and which obviously means some comfort that maybe about 2 3 months back when it was written all over the city, the everybody was worried that job losses, we're facing job losses, etc. But gradually that fear has at least I would say reduced, if not completely eliminated. So that is also giving a lot of comfort to the home buyers in these destinations, as we always talk about, and most of us are aware that these are the cities which are IT driven, information technology,
Absolutely.
outsourcing, etc. So these are the cities where those fears were, I would want to say, put to rest. So that definitely brought in some kind of euphoria in that sector in those markets. And while Hyderabad and Chennai markets are not too big, when we look at that packing order, we start with Mumbai as the highest number of transactions, and somewhere Delhi comes in. The order has changed about 8 10 years back. Delhi used to be numero uno with more than a lakh fresh apartments sold every year. That has changed a bit. But Hyderabad and Chennai are still smaller in comparison to the other two. Bangalore has come up pretty well. Bangalore at some point of time was even challenging Mumbai in terms of apartment numbers, number of apartments sold. So Bangalore also bouncing back is a great sign for the industry, for the developers, for the supply side. So overall, various reasons, as I said, have come in. And I would want to say even this home loan interest rates saturation last indication from RBI that they may not be increasing the rates any further, at least the 50 bips that we have seen consecutive 3, 4, 50 bips increases, the last one 25 and this time 0. So that is also showing some signs of plateauing of rate hikes. That is yet another comfort for a home loan seeker and ultimately a home buyer. So a lot of these positive factors have come in. So it is very difficult to give a one-line answer to your question because I see multiple reasons for home buyers to get excited about buying a home, buying a house all over again.
Right. In fact, for our viewers, Hyderabad, the sales volumes were up 19% versus the last year, same time, March quarter. Chennai, 8% up sales volumes. And we actually were just talking about, again, these all actually are IT dominated areas. So, again, very important point, a very interesting point also. And I would also think, again, the March quarter results also of a couple of South India based companies perhaps could be very interesting. Brigade, Prestige, and there are sort of other companies also. So let's keep watching. But when we take a look at the numbers here, it also appears Mumbai this time sales were down 6%. Kolkata, Bengaluru 3%, 2% down largely. Uh, but when I take a look at the new residential launches, Bangalore is up 19% YOY. So, sir, if in any quarter the sales is slightly down, but if you're looking at a strong launch momentum, largely fair to say that perhaps somewhere in the future those volumes are going to bounce up sharply. It's largely a sequencing, a timing of the sort of volume here.
Under normal circumstances, I would agree, Piyush, to your logic, your argument. However, supply side excitement may not always mean that demand will pick up. While the developers, the supply side agents or supply side forces are well aware of the realities on ground, but even they go haywire. That especially when the tides are turning, that thing is normally seen. But right now, I don't believe that the tides are turning. So I would also look at those signs as positive signs because these are the ones who are day to day interacting with customers. They're aware of how many prospects are walking into their offices, etc., and how the conversion rates are going in future, how those prospects can be converted into consumers, buyers, etc. So these forces are extremely important and integral in the overall scheme of things. So I would definitely go by the indicators coming out from the supply side, and the numbers that you're talking about, the new launches, is the great indicator. But that said, I would still, from my side, add a bit to it. Uh, Mumbai, you're looking at some negative numbers in Mumbai, but that is not good enough for us to jump to the conclusion that the tides have turned. This is exactly what I used to say about a year back when things were turning around for positive side. I was asking all of us to wait and watch, because just one negative number is not good enough of a data point for me to project a change in the behavior of market. So today, just and mind you, I would also then look at the rolling averages. And if I look at the last 10 years rolling averages, this is a very, very nominal, hardly noticeable kind of a negativity that we are talking about. And this can turn in no time. I'm sure in the month that we are in April, we may say a better result. And if I talk about rolling averages, the number that we saw last quarter or last March were the best in last 10 years. So let's not be in too much of a haste. We are comparing this March or this quarter with the last March and last quarter, and believe me,
Sure, very good.
Mumbai had a couple of reasons to sell those many apartments in that time. Some stamp duty cuts or a lot of things. So a lot of those anomalies exist in the data point. So just one negative number, at least to me as a research analyst, is not good enough to predict a change of tide.
Absolutely. Again, this is what sort of we were alluding to, and there is also another sort of data point here, which is very interesting, supporting actually what we are talking about. Pricing, I was observing, and we have seen some strong pricing gains being made in Hyderabad, Chennai, Mumbai, Bangalore. Again, pointing to the same fact: Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, IT dominated areas. Gains are to the tune of 5 to 7%. And if I combine here, we are talking about good volume performance. We are talking about very strong pricing gains. And in between all of these cities, there is one city which is coming up with strong launches also, which is Bengaluru. But coming back to the pricing point, is according to you, what's the reason for a continued price increase, or is it largely the pricing gains were being made last 1 or 2 quarters? Now this is largely looking at as a YY performance. Anything in March quarter particular?
First of all, let me put my thoughts to slightly contest or to contrast to what you're talking about. I understand, Piyush, when you're talking about it, you're looking at it from the supply side because you're talking about companies, how they will perform, etc. But the way I look at it, on a very, very neutral perspective, price rises beyond a certain point are not good for markets either. Even for a developer, a price rise which will have an impact on velocity of sales, a price rise which will bring in unaffordabilities, a price rise which will keep the buyers at bay is not good for business. And this kind of price rise that we are talking about is very, very nominal. In fact, it is still negative if I talk about inflation also. If inflationary trends kick in, then we are still in the negative zone. So this 5-7% of a price growth that we're talking about, first of all, is nothing to sing and dance about even from the supply side. Like even if I'm looking at the listed players that these gains are very positive, then I don't agree to that because these are pretty nominal. And I look at it from the other perspective that these developers are today, once bitten, twice shy kind of situation is what we are talking about. We have seen about 10-12 years back, the downslide essentially happened because the price rises were so out of whack that affordability left the whole industry. And that is when the buyer started pulling out. So this is that, catch-22 situation. You need to increase the prices to take into consideration the inflationary trends, price rises, if material, raw material, this, that, etc.
Cement,
All that is
steel,
fine.
everything. Yeah.
Exactly. Indeed, construction cost and so on and so forth. Regulatory costs have been shooting up. Let me tell you, most of us talk about construction material or labor. In fact, the labor cost is going out of whack completely. But beyond that, even regulatory costs, stamp duties, this, that, everywhere, metro says this says, that says, etc. coming in. That's also a big cause of concern. However, with all that is happening, and let's not forget about the rate hikes, interest rates. So for buyer, all these things put together make a picture of affordability. And if there is any dent in affordability, the markets suffer. The developers I was talking about, coming back to the point I was trying to drive across, that the developers are smart enough today to maintain that delicate balance, not to offshoot or not to throw the whole thing off track. So the nominal price hikes, etc., that we are looking at are also, I would say, healthy. And of course, you talk about 7-8%, but in this 7-8%, you will still see a lot of products selling for even 12-13% price rise also. What you are looking at are weighted average price rises. And
Consolidated.
in this consolidated, and in the middle of that, there are a lot of projects which are actually going on discount. Let's also not forget that. And something which is important to know, the age of inventory is the key here. The new projects are selling faster than the older ones. The ones which are lying unsold for say 2 years, 3 years, the buyers have seen that these products are lying without any buyer. So they are also hesitant to get on to such projects. So please understand, those are the guys who are willing to give discounts to attract buyers. So the pricing that we're talking about is an average of all of that. So in today's time, there are a few players, and quite a few of them are listed with a great pedigree, with a huge consumer confidence, are getting away with 10 plus double digit of price growths as well. So which is a healthy sign that people are paying the price for conviction, for the better quality, better location, better products, etc. It's a very good sign for me to overall to gauge the health of the market. So price rise in itself is a pretty wide subject. I tried to explain various aspects to it, but I would say right now it's going in the right direction. Nothing to worry about from the industry perspective.
Well, our discussion is pointing out two things again, which you just explained. One is price rise is looking okay, and second, again, basically, volume demand is looking okay so far. Now, before I jump to the commercial sector, wanted to actually take your view on 2 points here. One point is between the cities right now, which area or which pocket, which city is looking to you as having the strongest momentum?
Look, we cannot ignore Delhi, NCR. NCR has been turning very perniciously down there without too much of a focus. But then the growth of transactions in NCR is breathtaking, the way I would want to put it up, because those the statistics always take the focus away when you talk about Hyderabad, 10-12% increase, etc. But Delhi is a big market, it's a large market, and it's showing very positive trends. Well, in the backdrop, it was almost about a decade-long recession in Delhi market, and now that it is bouncing back, the bounce back is spectacular. And that is something all perhaps because of 7-8% numbers that you don't focus so much when a Hyderabad comes up, and that's exactly what I was telling you earlier. That you need to actually put the picture in perspective. A large market showing a 7-8% improvement is far more engaging and interesting than a
I
small
know,
market like Hyderabad giving a 10-12% of increase. So
I
to
know what you're
me,
referring
NCR,
to.
yeah,
I know what you're
NCR
referring to
is a
because I just saw the DLF numbers when the launch happened and how quickly the inventory was taken out. So over to you again, but I'm absolutely I know what you're saying.
and since you're talking DLF, that's more of a upper end of the market. But even in the mid to low end also, Delhi is one market where the wares are selling like hotcakes all across. I would say there are a lot of pockets, like Sona is one location which is actually improving a lot. And in fact, NCR as a city, I'm extremely positive about because the kind of infrastructure boost that NCR is receiving is far better than any other city in this country. The roads, the connects to all around, there are multiple. NHAI is doing a fabulous job connecting Delhi city to the pretty much every city around north, south, east, west, all the way to Mumbai. The expressway that opened up halfway through Delhi Mumbai expressway that is connecting the whole of Rajasthan, already done. Jaipur tak, very great connectivity. The high speed rail, the fast high speed rail of the country is just about to be rolled out, connecting Meerut to Delhi. In less than an hour, you will reach from Meerut to Delhi. So the kind of infra work that's happening in NCR is mind blowing. And that to me gives the comfort that this is the market to watch. NCR is where you will see the next wave of real estate activity coming in. And already we can see that, whether it is Meerut, Sonipat, lot of these locations which were earlier boondocks back of beyond are suddenly finding favors because infrastructure is falling in place. Other cities have a long way to go. Even Mumbai, while we talk about tens of projects happening in Mumbai, but still it is not, it's quite a few shades paler than what's happening in NCR. And Bengaluru is way behind. So I would focus on the infra growth to then come back and overlap it with how the residential forecasts will look like. And to me, in all these, hands down winner is NCR, and going forward, it's going to be for a long time. NCR shall remain to will rule the roost.
Well, NCR again, the entire northern part again will keep a close watch here. A word on the commercial space looks like we talked about the last time, December quarter. That type of momentum has been maintained. Mumbai is also figuring in the list here. What's your take from the perspective of deal activity, and also what you're looking at increase in the rental activity? Largely, is it showing the momentum that either it is co-working or the singular space? Is it sufficient evidence of a robust momentum which is continuing?
I guess I'll go back to where I started when we're talking about the health of residential sector, which is boosted by job creations, wealth creation, etc., employment generation. And this is where office sector comes in. And in my initial part, I alluded to that how the overall job creation scene is looking decent in spite of so many global headwinds across the world. And that is something which remains a great story to talk about. That in spite of the banking meltdown, at least two, three of banks, falling out, and in spite of the continued the Russia-Ukraine war, the energy crisis, and a lot of those concerns. In spite of that, job creations and office market in India has continued to look good. In fact, last year when we closed in December, we were painting a bit of a negative picture that going forward, a lot of these concerns may, change the tide. However, that didn't happen. The first quarter, at least, the numbers were looking good. The absorption numbers were good. However, a large share of that was co-working, which is I would still call co-working spaces as a middle agent, because they need to also occupy those spaces with an end user. So almost one third of the office spaces absorbed in that duration was in co-working guys. However, even that is a sign. Like earlier, we spoke about the launches for residential. Similarly, the co-working guys, when they're taking huge spaces, that also shows their confidence. They are in touch with the market forces. They are in touch with their clients who are giving them or who are willing to give them orders for occupying large number of workspaces, which is giving them that confidence to go out and take more spaces. So I take that as a positive indicator. So net job increases or saturation in a few of these markets is a comforting factor which was not existing say 3 months back. When we closed the December quarter, we were still disturbed about a few things trending in future, but that concern is put to rest today. So the market is definitely not going south. It will only look up in times to come. And that is also reflecting one of the points that you spoke about was the rental growth. Well, mind you, in the interim, we saw rental growth, albeit by 2-3 percentage points, but nonetheless, it's a rental growth. So to me, this is yet another comforting factor that if occupiers are willing to pay the extra amount to continue to occupy the spaces, it's a positive trend. So net for office sector, I would just want to conclude my submission saying that a quarter back, there were a lot of uncertainties, but quite a few of those uncertainties have been put to rest. So much lesser of a risk looming large. So I would say it's a positive for the sector overall.
Okay, and before we submit, any particular sort of observation or any particular view you want to share over the entire real estate sector for the March quarter as we are starting the FY24?
Before we started recording this session, I was telling you that this is the first time, and in fact, you started on that pitch, which is that real estate sector overall is going with all guns blazing. This is very rare. I would say in my 2.5 decade of experience, almost, sorry, 30 years I've been in the industry, have seen at least three cycles. All sectors performing well hasn't happened before. Retail, we don't talk much about. It's a very minuscule sector. Very few of your listed players have an exposure to retail sector, but whoever has a exposure are doing fabulous in that sector. Hospitality, this was one sector which was actually suffering for almost about a decade, has suddenly started boosting. You go to Mumbai, Delhi, you may want to immediately shoot it down कि G20 के कारण हो रहा है. G20 may be a reason. Whatever is the reason, let's face it. Yeah, today you don't get a room. Number one, number two, the ARRs have shot up double.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is, and you know what? Somewhere a lot of things are falling in place. I recall 10 years back when I used to make my submissions on hospitality industry. I used to say that India suffers because the lack of infrastructure is bothering hospitality industry. You go to other places, going from point A to point B, there are various modes of transport. We didn't have that. But today, with airports getting into the rural areas, with lots of new roads opening, that gap, that void, the lack of infrastructure has changed completely. And that is also reflecting on a positive mindset of even tourists. So while the commercial activities and business travelers are shooting up nonetheless, even the local travelers who now want to explore our own country has also shot up. So overall hospitality industry is going so great. I just hear there's a discussion, one of the biggest listed player in the hospitality industry is looking at separating the hospitality business from its mother concern. So a lot of those
Yes.
positives are coming up. So I want to say that this is perhaps the first time in my lifetime, 30 years career, that pretty much all guns blazing, real estate, warehousing. Why do we forget warehousing? Be it warehousing, talk about hospitality, retail, residential, commercial, you name it, positivity everywhere. So last, I would want to say 4 5 years, when we have seen the worst of the real estate sector, the turnaround is that much more spectacular if you look at the recession that we have come out with.
Right. Maybe warehousing, I think, is something which I think is going to continue for a long time. Like Make in India and warehousing actually go hand in hand. So, as you're just saying, absolutely. In fact, I was also taking a look at the Reliance numbers, a massive addition in the warehousing, and this, I think, is just continuing with the medium-sized companies also. So,
I would
on
want
that
to, since
note,
you spoke of
oh,
that
sure.
name, since you spoke about that name, they are expected to come out with a REIT, a warehousing
Yes,
REIT.
yes, yes.
So that's a great news for the sector. Warehousing agreed upon as an infra part and then creating an InvIT for warehousing is a great step. I would say going forward, it's a positive sign for the overall warehousing and logistic industry. And when we're talking about the investment trusts, the REITs, etc., were still, going baby steps, very gradual increase, only three REITs listed yet. But infra side is expected to give a huge boost. The InvITs that are coming up, you just are going to see a huge number of InvITs coming in the markets today.
Absolutely. The money actually, and this is what actually I was discussing to a very large global foreign investor in the real estate market, and their submission was two lines. According to them, they think now that the Indian market has matured, it is much easier to enter, much easier to stay, and then much easier to exit. And that's why actually all the fund flows actually are just showing up. So on that note, I think we could actually be doing conversation for we can go on and go on. That is how actually exciting real estate sector has been now. But sir, it's always a pleasure having you and getting all the insights on the real estate sector.
It's great to continue, as I said, but we need to keep something aside for the next round. Otherwise, when would we talk?
Absolutely. So with that, we actually close this conversation, dear viewers. Hope you enjoyed it. It appeared that this time March quarter again was a fantastic quarter for real estate sector. Do watch out for all the stats, all the regions. But for now, thank you for watching us.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to never miss an update from Nirmal Bang.